Welcome to Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Hello, Chris. It's so good to see you. Thanks for being here. Hello, Piggy. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day and blessed as well. Hello, our bucket list sis. So good to see you. Much love and prayers to you as well. Thank you. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. How many of y'all have heard this about the Memphis Safe Task Force? Let me know by putting a one up if you have heard about it. If you haven't, I guess put a two. Okay. I want to thank them for doing this because whatever we have to deal with, we need to protect the citizens. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take out the cause of the fatherless, and plead the case of the widows. Without further ado, go ahead and show this. Oh, you heard about it? That's great. Well, tomorrow you can see I'm doing a live tomorrow, and it's going to be very important. So I hope to see y'all because there's some things I never discussed. I was kind of embarrassed about it because I actually met her said person at a date site. You got to be careful who you trust. But Charles Rogers will be here also tomorrow. Um, so after I tell what I'm going to say, then I'm going to let him unmute his mic and stuff and let him talk. So here's what President Trump creates the Memphis Safe Task Force. President Donald Trump signed a memorandum Monday establishing a Memphis Safe Task Force. This was written September 16th, so it wasn't Monday, okay? To combat violent crime and suggested troops might be in the city a matter of weeks. The president met with Tennessee Republicans Governor Bill Lee and Senators Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty at the White House, along with several high ranking administrative officials. We're going to make Memphis safe again, Attorney General Pam Bondi said. And Trump announced that the National Guard will be deployed to Memphis, which they have been. He added that the force would include FBI, DEA, and ICE, the Marshal Service, and other federal agencies. Governor Bill Lee thanked the president for his commitment to Memphis. He told the president, I've been in office for 7 years. I'm tired of crime holding the great city of Memphis back. This will be your proudest moment, Trump told Governor Lee. When we see you in 4 or 5 weeks, maybe sooner, you're going to see numbers that will drop and plummet like you haven't seen. just like we did in D.C. The White House released statistics with the title Make Memphis Safe Again, showing Memphis, excuse me, I hated how that scrolled back up, please forgive, showing Memphis with the nation's highest violent crime rate, highest property crime rate, and third highest murder rate. A person is 4 times more likely to be murdered in Memphis, Tennessee today than in Mexico City. Wow, that's very profound, isn't it? The FBI has been assisting local authorities in an operation in the city where crime rates have declined in recent months. FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency had gone into the city quietly to set the groundwork to make Memphis safe permanently. It's not a short term mission, Patel said. Senator Blackburn said the FBI has been working for several months on Operation Viper in Memphis, which had resulted in more than 500 arrests and 100 indictments. Wow. Memphis had the best stats that they have had in years. This past August last month, Blackburn said it's because of the work that's been done. Senator Haggerty said crime had plagued Memphis since he was a boy. I hope to see Memphis become the safest city in America, Haggerty said. I know that a lot of people, when they go to different areas in Tennessee, some people use that track and go along through Memphis. And I said, well, if I got to go see you, there ain't no way I want to drive through Memphis because I know that a lot of people that drive through there, there's a lot of drive-bys and all. I'm like, no, thank you. An unscientific poll conducted by WREG shows more than 80% of respondents were in favor of the National Guard deployment in the city. Many local officials have cautioned against Guard troops in Memphis. State Representative Justin J. Pearson on Monday urged Trump to bring investments into the city instead. Investments? Well, I can understand, yeah, you might need investments for the people with the housing, but we really need to get rid of a lot of illegal stuff going on. We need to protect our children. It said we need 10 billion to start of investment in Memphis and Shelby County. Give us that, not the National Guard. He said we need financial investment in this city and this county because we are getting the least amount of any other county or district in the state of Tennessee. Those are the facts. First, don't you think before you get that money, you need to clean up the city a little bit? Think about it. Trump suggested Chicago may be the site of the next deployment, and I had seen in Georgia where there was a big sting operation. Wow, I was so, oh man, oh, I'm so happy about that. And so, restoring law and order in Memphis. The memorandum for the Secretary of the Treasury, the Secretary of War, the Attorney General. We'll go over these different names in a few minutes. As this is what the background. This is the subject: restored law and order in Memphis. The background: the city of Memphis, Tennessee, is suffering from tremendous levels of violent crime that have overwhelmed its local government's ability to respond effectively. The situation has become dire in one of our nation's most historic cities. According to data from the FBI, Memphis in 2024 had the highest rate of violent crime per capita, including some of the highest per capita rates of murder, robbery, and aggravated assault, and property crimes such as burglary, larceny, and motor vehicle theft in the country. The city, a beacon of American culture that was Elvis's home and is often called the birthplace of rock and roll and the blues, should be safe and secure for all of its citizens and Americans who visits his historic landmarks such as Graceland, Beale Street, and the Memphis Pyramid. I never heard about the Memphis Pyramid. To restore public safety and order, state and local leaders have requested federal assistance, and I will act quickly to ensure that federal authorities assist Memphis law enforcement to the fullest possible extent. Said this hereby establish a Memphis Safe Task Force whose objectives shall be to end street and violent crime in Memphis to the greatest possible extent through the promotion and facilitation of hypervigilant policing, aggressive prosecution, complex investigation, financial enforcement, and large-scale saturation of besieged neighborhoods with law enforcement personnel, and which shall coordinate closely with state officials in Tennessee and local officials in Memphis to share information. That means united, coming together, okay? Develop joint priorities and maximize resources to make Memphis safe and restore public order. The task force shall be chaired by an individual selected and appointed by the Attorney General, who shall direct all task force functions and who shall coordinate with the Assistant to the President and Homeland Security Advisor. The task force shall also include representatives from the following executive departments and agencies as designated by the head of the relevant agency: the Department of Treasury, the Department of War, the Department of Justice, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Homeland Security, the United States Marshal Service, the FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the Drug Enforcement Administration, Homeland Security Investigations, and the United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of Tennessee. The chairman of the task force may also designate other agencies to participate in the task force as the chairman deems necessary, as well as inspectors general from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I don't think I want to go and read all that again. These different businesses. It also says the U.S. Postal Service, Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Labor, Department of the Treasury, the Social Security Administration. It goes on and such other agencies as the chairman of the task force determines. The head of the agency designated the chairman shall select a representative of the agency to serve on the task force. Task force may, to the extent permitted by law, request operational assistance from and coordinate with the Memphis Police Department, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the Memphis Area Transit Authority, the TBI, the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, the Tennessee State Probation and Parole Office, the Tennessee Department of Corrections, the Arkansas State Police, the Mississippi State Police, the Shelby County Attorney's Office, the Shelby County District Attorney's Office, the Memphis City Prosecutor's Office, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, Shelby County Pretrial Services, the Shelby County Probation Section, and other federal, state, and local officials as appropriate. It said the task force shall utilize the strategies and principles of federal, state, and local law enforcement coordination developed and deployed pursuant to Executive Order 14252 on March 7th, 27th, 2025, making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful, and Executive Order 14333 of August 11th, 2025, declaring a crime emergency in the D.C. as appropriate and consistent with applicable law to coordinate and ensure effective integrated action by federal, state, and local law enforcement authorities. Whew. This has got a lot of information here. Sorry, taking a breath there. It's got a lot of stuff right here, and it goes on talking about this. And it's got also, when you go down here with this, coordinate strict enforcement of applicable quality of life, nuisance, and public safety laws, including those laws prohibiting assault, battery, larceny, graffiti, and other vandalism, unpermitted disturbances and demonstrations, noise, trespassing, public intoxication, drug possession, cell vagrancy and use, and traffic violations to make Memphis safe and secure again. The task force shall report to me as necessary through the assistant to the President and Homeland Security Advisor regarding safety in Memphis and the tasks set forth in subsection of the city. As part of this report, the Attorney General, in consultation with the task force, shall assess whether public safety circumstances in Memphis require additional executive action. So they got it mobilized and everything. So that's good. I am going to get off of this page, go to another one because this is a lot of stuff going on here. Then there's the federal and state public safety support in Memphis. In Memphis, we rise to every challenge since January 2024. Crime has fallen by double digit percentages, the result of focused policing, strong community and base partnerships, and the resolve of our people. My responsibility as mayor is to ensure that every new resource strengthens our neighborhoods, supports our families, and builds on that progress. Our goal is to ensure that the state and federal efforts coming to Memphis are guided by one purpose to uplift our community and accelerate a safer, stronger future. This is our moment to show the world the truth about Memphis. We are a city that rises, a city that leads, and a city that defines itself not by challenges, but by our culture, innovation, and hope. Mayor Paul Young. It says, who is here? This is a multi agency initiative with members of the National Guard, Highway Patrol officers, and agents from 13 plus federal agencies. The expressed goals of the federal action are as follows: end violent and street crime in Memphis through the new Memphis Safe Task Force, strengthen coordination between federal, state, and local partners, enforce quality of life violations more consistently, support Memphis Police Department recruitment, retention, and capacity, increase law enforcement presence with National Guard support if needed, provide ongoing oversight, and report progress to the President. Additional information can be found. Says how long? The Memphis action is presented as a sustained campaign rather than an emergency takeover as was ordered in D.C. His mission includes many local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. The Tennessee National Guard is playing a supporting role, acting as a force multiplier, supporting the Memphis Police Department and other local law enforcement agencies on the ground. The Memphis Safe Task Force began operations the week of September 29th, with Tennessee National Guard patrols beginning 10:10. This is a citywide initiative. What this looks like in Memphis, the National Guard serving as extra eyes and ears in our neighborhoods, assisting local, state, and federal agencies. The federal agencies providing specialized support ranging from crime prevention to blight reduction to homelessness services. They're saying they don't know where that's coming from because they don't know because somebody the agencies that helps try to help the homeless, that it's so many people out there without a home, and a lot of these people that take up money for the organizations are being depleted. They are stretched thin. List of federal agencies named in the present order: Department of the Treasury, Department of War, Department of Justice, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Transportation, Department of Homeland Security, United States Marshal Service, FBI, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Drug Enforcement Administration, Homeland Security Investigations, U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Tennessee. Identification. The guardsmen and women will be easily identifiable in their standard uniforms that they wear every day. The guardsmen and women will not be wearing masks. Armored tanks will not be a resource used in this mission. Well, here's the rule right here. All resources are here to assist with and support local priorities. The Tennessee National Guard will provide additional eyes and ears supporting Memphis Police Department, who will continue to manage public safety in the city. Per the presidential memorandum, the guardsmen and women will be deputized by the U.S. Marshals. Guardsmen and women will not make arrests or issue warrants. So let's go to this. Memphis Safe Task Force finds 45 missing children. Yay! And one group hopes to continue those efforts. More than 850 arrests have been made and 45 missing children have been recovered in the Memphis Safe Task Force crime crackdown. This was October the 14th. A new push to locate missing children are producing rapid results in Memphis. In just 2 weeks, the newly formed Memphis Safe Task Force has made more than 850 arrests and recovered 45 missing children. Progress that advocates say is already changing the landscape. TBI Director David Rush confirmed the latest numbers. As I mentioned, the reporting number is 44. We know there are 45. One is literally being reported when the surge operation had stopped the vehicle and that child was in the vehicle. The work is especially meaningful to local nonprofits like Saving Lost Kids, which helps recover and support children impacted by trafficking. That's a big, big, big deal, especially what we've seen, because those numbers haven't changed much. In fact, they've gone up, said Brian Kelly's CEO of Saving Lost Kids. This will be the first time, and our numbers are now changing. Well, we're seeing those numbers go down, and so it's encouraging. Callies hopes the multi agency approach will continue to drive those numbers even lower. He estimates there are currently 300 to 400 active missing child cases across Tennessee, with 70 to 80 of those in West Tennessee alone, particularly near Shelby County. Right now, the estimated 3 of 400 missing in Tennessee, those are the ones that are active missing right now, he said. We have got somewhere between 70 to 80 missing just in West Tennessee around the Shelby County area. Callies pointed out that 90% of missing children are runaways who are often fleeing difficult circumstances and that many end up trafficked by someone they know. Now his organization is working to provide long-term housing and care for those children. So we embarked about 4 years ago. We started this idea of building homes for children recovered out of child sex trafficking and to give them a true home, a true place that they feel safe, Kelly said. The planned residence, which Kelly said will be a ranch located in rural Tennessee, will include 20 homes and will initially house only girls. It's expected to open by the end of the year. I hope somebody will go ahead and get some other area and open a ranch that's just going to be for the boys. Okay. I know they got one in Texas, but there's not many out there. There's plenty for the girls. There's plenty for the women and stuff. We still need more because the numbers are outstanding. But how about opening more for just the male? Also, we need to do that. We need to think about that. To me, if I'm going to feel safe and comfortable for my family to be here. I want to know that there's active work being done to take the bad guys out of the picture, Kelly said. I don't see no more there. So let's go to the next one over here. Now, this Shelby County mayor declares state of emergency in response to Memphis Safe Task Force arrest. Shelby County mayor declared state of emergency. Let's see. Here is a note from the Tennessee Conservative. This article posted here for informational purposes only. Mayor Lee Harris has declared a state of emergency in Shelby County, citing a strain on local resources caused by the surge in federal and state law enforcement deployed to Memphis by Governor Bill Lee and President Donald Trump. The declaration issued last week and announced publicly Tuesday cites pressures on the county's already overcrowded detention center as a result of an estimated 200% increase in daily arrests made by members of the Memphis Safe Task Force. The state federal partnership has brought hundreds of outside law enforcement personnel, including the Tennessee National Guard, to the city. Shelby County includes all of Memphis as well as few similar smaller cities. The local state of emergency will continue until the end of Memphis Safe Task Force operations or until detention facility populations are reduced to capacity level or below. The declaration read, Lee this week said the operation could last forever. The emergency declaration, Harris said this week, frees up spending rules to respond to an increase in arrests, detentions, and other costs incurred by law enforcement activity. County leaders are also contemplating separate legal action to protect residents against some of the unconstitutional actions we have seen and heard about during traffic stops and arrests by task force members, including reports of racial profiling. He didn't even want them to come in, but they were needed. They were needed to come in. It might have been what he calls an illegal act, but guess what? Kids are being rescued out of the cars too. Shelby County is at least the second American county to invoke an emergency declaration in response to Trump's deployment of law enforcement to blue cities in a stated effort to combat crime and crack down on immigrants without legal status. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors earlier this week enacted a state of emergency to aid families impacted by immigration enforcement. It's not just in blue cities, it's wherever it's needed to get a life, y'all. Come on, get real. Don't make it political now. That's that's the least you can do is stop trying to make it political. In issuing the emergency declaration, Harris cited state law typically only invoked for severe weather, national disasters, and pandemics to spend money and enter contracts without going through the regular appropriations process, reassign staff, and request state emergency funding. Well, I think a lot of people's lives were mattering, and a lot of people in that area that was very rampant with crime. These businesses were closing their doors. Some people were, even pharmacies had closed down because of all the crime out there. They did not feel safe to go to work. Yeah, even at CVS pharmacy, they did not. Excuse me. Hundreds of state and federal law enforcement officers, among them officers with the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the FBI, and Tennessee Highway Patrol, were dispatched to Memphis in recent weeks after Trump issued a September 15 order establishing a task force to restore law and order to one of the nation's biggest majority black cities. Now they're going to play black card, huh? Race card. As of Wednesday, the task force had made 917 arrests, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Where all of the arrested individuals are taken remains unclear. 173 were detained on ICE administrative warrants, and local attorneys speaking alongside The mayor this week described clients sent to ICE detention facilities out of state. But other task force arrestees are being taken to the Shelby County Detention Center, a department official confirmed. Shelby County jail officials have long faced criticism for persistent overcrowded and inhumane conditions inside the city's central detention center, conditions that preceded the recent surge in the task force arrests. Currently, the Shelby County Detention Center holds 2,932 individuals, according to the Sheriff's Department spokesperson. The center has a 2,800 bed capacity. Harris contemplates legal action against the task force. Look at this, y'all. Shelby County officials are weighing some sort of legal action in order to put a stop to some of the unconditional actions we have seen and heard about, Harris said, citing anecdotal reports that have come to his office of racial profiling in traffic stops. He also aimed sharp criticism at the president and the governor for actions taking place in Memphis. There's nothing more unconstitutional than the comments made by Donald Trump and others that they are going to send military forces and the National Guard or whoever else they need to American communities. Excuse me, even the governor asked for help. The mayor asked for help. Get real, people. We have seen our governor be in some of those rooms, and instead of rejecting that kind of talk and reminding those in the room that some of their talk imagines actions that are unconstitutional, our governor sat silent and said nothing. What about our rights to be safe? Right? So here is the last page. What federal agencies are in Memphis, the Safe Task Force. Here's all of them and what they do. So the National Guard and a dozen federal agencies began arriving in Memphis the week of September 29th as part of the Memphis Safe Task Force. After weeks of speculation about what agencies will be coming and when, the force has already begun making arrests, according to United States Attorney General Pam Bondi. Here's what you need to know about the National Guard and each federal agency in town. The National Guard. The Army National Guard is a part time, state based military force that serves under the command of a state governor. In Tennessee, control of the National Guard falls to Governor Bill Lee. The Guard can be mobilized to respond to natural disasters or other state emergencies. Each of the 50 states has its own Army National Guard unit. The U.S. territories of Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands have their own units as well. There's a picture right here. The Memphis Safe Task Force operations involved multiple federal agencies. More than a dozen federal agencies have started deploying extra manpower to Memphis as part of the coordinated crackdown on crime. It needed done, people. There ain't nothing biased about that or unconstitutional. National Guard troops can be deputized by the U.S. Marshal Service, which grants them federal law enforcement powers. The National Guard members in Memphis will be deputized by the U.S. Marshal Service, according to Lee. The Tennessee Army National Guard has nearly 11,000 soldiers, according to the Tennessee state government website. Department of the Treasury. The U.S. Department of the Treasury states its mission is to maintain a strong economy, create economic and job opportunities by promoting growth and stability, and combat threats and protect the integrity of the country's financial system. The department is also responsible for managing the U.S. government's finances and resources effectively. The Department of the Treasury handles the production of coin and currency, collects taxes due to the U.S., enforces federal finance and tax laws, and investigates and prosecutes tax evaders, counterfeiters, and forgers. That's if you want to dig deeper. This was actually found on the Des Moines Register.com. The Scott Bessent is the current Secretary of the Treasury. Department of Defense. The U.S. Department of Defense is responsible for maintaining and overseeing the U.S. military, including the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Space Force. The agency also manages the defense budget. In September 2025, President Donald Trump signed an executive order rebranding the department as the Department of War with instructions to eventually make the change permanent. Pete Hegseth is the current Secretary of Defense. Department of Justice. The mission of the U.S. Department of Justice is to enforce federal laws, ensure public safety, and uphold civil rights. The DOJ prosecutes criminal cases, oversees federal law enforcement agencies, and manages federal prisons, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives all fall under the DOJ's umbrella. This is a Homeland Security armored vehicle drives away from the staging area for the Memphis Safe Task Force after Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller addressed the state and federal forces assembled near the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy on October the 1st, 2025. Pam Bondi is the U.S. Attorney General, a position that serves as the head of the DOJ. Department of Health and Human Services, The mission of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is to enhance the health and well-being of all Americans. The agency is responsible for overseeing public health policy and funding for health and human services. The department manages Medicare and Medicaid. There are over a dozen agencies under the HHS banner, including the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the National Institutes of Health, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Robert F. Kennedy is the current Secretary of HHS. The Department of Housing and Urban Development. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is tasked with national housing policy and community development. The agency is intended to provide affordable housing assistance, enforce fair housing laws, support homeownership programs, and administer grants for urban development and disaster recovery. The HUD website currently includes a pop up that displays upon visiting that reads: "A radical left in Congress shut down the government. HUD will use available resources to help Americans in need." This is where Governor Bill Lee gives details about Memphis National Guard deployment. And y'all know how I feel about Governor Bill Lee. Well, this is good on this part. But when you go like this and you side with a pedophile, I have a problem with that. Excuse me. Scott Turner is the current HUD secretary. The U.S. Department of Transportation oversees national transportation systems and infrastructure. The agency develops federal transportation policy and works to ensure the safety of highways, railway, roads, air travel, and maritime transport. The agency also administers funding for local transit services. The Federal Aviation Administration, the Federal Highway Administration, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and the Maritime Administration all fall under the Department of Transportation. Sean Duffy is the Secretary of the Department of Transportation. Department of Homeland Security. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security focuses on anti-terrorism, border security, cybersecurity, and disaster prevention and management. Its operations are varied: the U.S. Coast Guard, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the Transportation Security Administration, and the United States Secret Service all fall under the DHS. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE is the principal investigative arm and primary law enforcement agency of the Department of Homeland Security. An officer and a K-9 crossed the street into a field used as the staging area for the Memphis Safe Task Force near the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy on October the 1st, 2025. Thanks to Chris Day, the commercial appeal. Christy Noam is the Department of Homeland Security. United States Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service is an agency under the U.S. Department of Justice. The mission of the Marshal Service is to enforce federal laws, provide security for federal court facilities, judges, and court personnel. The agency also apprehends fugitives, transports prisoners, and executes federal court orders. The U.S. Marshal Service has the power to deputize National Guard troops, granting them federal law enforcement powers as a force multiplier for local law enforcement. The National Guard members in Memphis will be deputized by the U.S. Marshal Service, according to Lee. The U.S. Marshals are spearheading the Memphis Safe Task Force. Yadasi Saralta, I don't know how to pronounce the name right here. Here's how you spell it. Is the director of the U.S. Marshal Service. Federal Bureau of Investigation. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation is a subdivision of the Department of Justice responsible for investigating and enforcing federal laws and defending the country against terrorism and foreign threats. The FBI also targets cybercrime and civil rights violations. Here's what FBI agents move gear and weapons within the vehicles in the field used as a staging area for the Memphis Safe Task Force near the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy. Cash Patel is the director of the FBI. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, also a subdivision of the Department of Justice, enforces federal laws relating to the illegal use of trafficking of firearms, the illegal use and storage of explosives, the illegal diversion of alcohol and tobacco products, and acts of bombing, arson, and terrorism. The ATF issues firearms licenses and performs compliance inspections of firearms licenses. But that what I was telling y'all that got busted a few days ago in Georgia. It's not a big organization. There was actually lots of weapons, 1.2 billion, and drugs and money, and also a rocket launcher. They had a freaking rocket launcher. Daniel Driscoll is the acting director of the ATF. Drug Enforcement Administration. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is DOJ's subdivision tasked with enforcing laws and regulations related to controlled substances. The agency works to dismantle drug trafficking organizations and targets organizations involved in the illegal growing, manufacturing, or distribution of controlled substances in the U.S. The DEA also supports prevention programs such as the National Take Back Day. I noticed on Telegram, and some of the people that tried, you can tell that it's an unreal or not a real organization when they spell it. Look how organization is spelled right here, right? It's got a Z right here, okay? The people that were bad trying to get you to give in, trying to get you to give money in that certain pop-up, it had an S there instead of a Z. So y'all be careful who you trust, okay? A DEI agent moves a weapon and gear into a vehicle at the staging area for the Memphis Safe Task Force near the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy. Terry Cole is administrator for the DEA. Homeland Security Investigations is the investigative arm of the Department of Homeland Security and the detectives of ICE. According to the DHS, HSI is primarily concerned with things moving in and out of the United States: people, goods, money, weapons, contrabands, or sensitive technology. The HSI also investigates crimes of child exploitation, human trafficking, and financial fraud and scams. Much of the HSI's mission is intertwined with ICE operations. Derek Gordon is the acting executive associate director of HSI. The U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Tennessee, Joseph C. Murray, is the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Tennessee. The 93 U.S. attorneys across the country are charged with enforcing federal laws. U.S. attorneys are appointed by the president to each of the federal districts in the country, and the attorney acts as the chief federal law enforcement officer in their district. The attorney also defends the United States in civil lawsuits. Jack Armstrong covers breaking news. Oh, that's just another. Jack Armstrong covers breaking news and the environment for the commercial appeal. He can be reached at jack.armstrong@commercialappeal.com and followed on X. So give him credit for this paperwork that he done, bringing this to our awareness what each of the organizations are doing and trying to make Memphis recover from all the criminal activity. Trying to close this up. Good morning, Carly. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. I want to make sure to get this information out there. I'm so proud that they stepped into the equation and getting the job done. We should be grateful. We should be thankful for all that they are doing. We need to work together as a country, come together as a country. Let's stop pointing fingers and saying, well, they ain't got no right coming in. Well, if we got to protect our citizens, right? We got to protect our children. There's too many senseless deaths and criminal. It's crazy. If you weren't doing the job of protecting the citizens and doing all the arrests and getting some people out of there that shouldn't be in there in the first place, yeah, the government's got to step in to try to help. We're not safe going to some places in the country all because of all this criminal activity going on. We want to be safe and we want to go visit. We want to go see some landmarks. I wanted to see Graceland. And I said, no way am I going to Graceland. How corrupt it is, all the crime. So maybe one day I'll be able to go check it out, right? So keep a watch on that. Y'all look up what had happened over there in Georgia a couple of days ago with that big sting operation. They stopped a lot of the drugs, but let's hope and it's a big cartel that got arrested. I thank God for that. Hopefully, with that, because we know a lot of times when there's drug involved, that sometimes it's also going with the sexual exploitation. So now we're hoping that Cash Patel will get with my friend Charles Rogers and with my friend Eric and talk to him because they got pertinent information on getting these traffickers, these bigwigs, getting them arrested. That's what we are hoping to strive to. Get these big ones that's with the governments, that with the judges, the lawyers, the police officers, the ones that's got these big things like Home Depot, because we know the people that started the Home Depot, the four main men right there, that they were in that organization. Ted Turner was that Christian Network. He's one of the people. That organization is so vast. Something needs to happen, okay? Something very needs to happen because Charles even witnessed it in an interview on here that when he went to try to rescue what he thought was his brother. He thought they were holding him against his will, and yet it was a setup to try and do something to Charles. And he was watching. He had seen these group of people that was raping two black boys, and they ended up sacrificing them and stuff. And who was there? These people that he's mentioned. Okay, these people. That's how Charles knows a lot of this, and his brother was involved. But Charles was never involved with harming children. He was involved with trying to help rescue the kids, and he still today is still going for that endeavor on getting these horrible people arrested. So we need to back Charles Rogers, help him out whatever way we can, support him. So he'll be on the show sometime tomorrow as well. Thank y'all, and God bless y'all.